Okay, so I've knocked down the rough edges with the DA with the 80 grit. Next thing I'm going to do is do some block sanding. And I want to go over that because people think that block sanding is simply using a block, in this case I'm using a Durablock, good and solid, and sanding with it. But there is a technique you need to know. Along with that, normally I wouldn't do this at this point, but I want to show you the effects. So you can do a couple different things, and again I'm just doing this at this point so that it shows up on the camera. I normally wouldn't do this. I could take some black spray paint and just kind of give it a dusting, and that way you can kind of see what it looks like when you're sanding. It shows you the light and dark areas. So there's some paint for that. The other thing you can use is dry guide coat. In this case, this is a Merca brand. 3M makes it, and this stuff is a black powder. You've probably seen it before, and I haven't even opened this yet, but it's got a black powder in this dispenser. The way it works is you take this top part, put the powder in, turn it upside down, get some on it, and now I've got some black powder on there. Same kind of thing. It gives you that look. You can see that it fills in all the little scratches and little low spots. So now that I have that on there, I want to show you a sanding technique. Now I'm using 100 grit yellow paper from 3M, just because I have 100. I would probably use 80 grit at this point, but I'm going to use 100. Block sanding, people think, okay, I've got a block and some paper, I'm just going to sand. And they just start going to town, or they start going like this, right? And then you end up with high and low spots. The problem with that is you're never going to get it flat. This thing has a curve. It even has a subtle curve this way. Very, very subtle, but most of the curve is this direction. So when you're sanding, you have to work your wrist and you have to work the part together. Let me show you. Now you see I'm going at a crisscross. I'm going to follow that up and go this direction as well in a minute. Okay, with that, just blow this off quick. I hope you can see it on the camera, but now you can see there's kind of a pattern to high and low spots. Zoom in a little bit. And you can see the dark areas are your lowest spots. The brighter areas are the highest spots. Just makes simple sense. You don't want to stay in one spot. You want to keep moving around. If you stay in one spot, you're just going to create a low spot. Now you can do some back and forth as well, but the crisscross is usually your best pattern. Now, I'm just going to blow this off again. Now you can see more of what I'm talking about, I hope. Because here's, again, the low spots, but they're not nearly as bad as they were a minute ago. So I'm going to keep going back and forth and going over top of this, knocking it down, and then I'll show you a follow-up. Okay, so I've blocked down the right side of this panel. I haven't done the left side completely, but I've done some of it. And I wanted to show you an important step in doing this kind of work. You can see some of the original color coming back through the bondo or the filler. Even here, you can see it's not all the way through, but it's close. You can see a little bit of color change, hopefully right there. I mean, it's noticeable, but it's more noticeable in person. But the reason I'm showing you that, and there's another spot. The reason I want to show you that is most people, when they're doing this kind of work, don't know when to stop. They just start sanding and they kind of get in a trance and just keep taking off material. The problem you run into is as you're digging through this stuff, you're just going right back down to where you started. So when you see these transitions, stop. You're not doing yourself a favor if you're digging back through that stuff. Because remember, I'm trying to build this up for one, and I'm also trying to make a smooth platform for the primer to sit on. And so if I knock this down, I'm just going to have to pile more on around it to build it back up. It's really humid here and I'm sweating really good. So I just want to show you that. I'm going to do a little more blocking and try to get it a little smoother, especially on that other side. And then I'll drive on. I'm going to end up putting on probably another coat, but I'm going to use something different than the Evercoat. Okay, so that's about 30-40 minutes of good hard sanding. I went through a second piece of 100 grit, but now you can see, and I went a little further than I normally would, so you can see the transitions. You know, the blue area is coming through the old primer spots. This is a really good indication of a high, like a point dent coming up from the bottom. Here you have a couple of high spots, but here, this is still low. You can still see the texture in the filler. Same way over here. That's actually still low, but you got a high spot and a high spot, so you're not going to gain anything by keep sanding on that. So at this point, I'm going to stop sanding, and I'm going to get another product and cover it again. Okay, this other product I'm going to use is called Dolphin Glaze. Hopefully you can see that okay. It's made by u-pol. It's a filler, but it's a thinner filler than any of your top coat or your coats like Bondo or Evercoat would use. And it's implied to be used for light filling. So I'm going to mix up a fair amount here. I have 2 packs of it, but I'm going to try to just do what I can with this one, just to show you how I use it. And again, it takes some, getting used to mixing up to get the right color, right consistency. But there's a variety of techniques people use. But you definitely want to get the color all the way through. So I've already blown this off. You want to make sure that all of the little cavities are clear of dust. You don't want to have any residual dust, because it really affects the bonding abilities of the material. And I know this looks excessive, but I want to show you how it's done. Always get questions asked. It's really humid today. Like I said earlier, I kept having sweat fall off of me and land on the panel. So my sweat is in this panel, literally. Now again, this is not a thick coat by any means. I'm going to spread it just a little bit more with this other little bit wider spreader that I have. Just want to make sure everything's covered. And it's consistent all the way across. And I'll mix up some more here in a minute and do the rest of the panel, but just give you an idea of what I'm talking about.